Growing up in the barrack is tough, exciting, lonely, fun, and and for me, it's a privilege. If given the opportunity again, I believe I will do it over and over and over again because I love the experience of growing up in the Nigerian Army um, military barracks. It's a moment where you share with friends. It's like living in a face me face you apartment. It's like growing up in the ghetto. Um, but you just love that life connections that you have, and having all of or almost all of the ethnic groups and peoples in Nigeria represented. It's it's being street smart. It's knowing how to defend yourself, how to be strong, how to have a life that is just full of play, learning, and excitement. I love that experience, and I will do it over and over again. Hello, everyone. My name is Israel Gwatana. I am a confirmed barrack boy. My military homeboys will know me as the game. Some people will know me as Sheila. Some people will know me as Mama Messi's child. I love the experience of growing up in the barracks. And this is my story, and I hope that you are inspired. For me, I think my experience in the barrack was fun. I had some bad moments, of course, but it is an experience that I will not trade for anything. And some of the things people think or say about growing up in the barracks sometimes might be exaggerated. Of course, there are problems with drug addictions, problems with teenage pregnancies, and all that. But it's it's just a good experience for me. So I like to think about my experience in the barracks as something that is connected to different stages of people or different generations that grew up in the barracks. So, um, just a bit of a background, right? I was born in 1992 in the Sarti barracks. Then my dad was transferred to Abuja. He served in Abuja, one of the barracks in Abuja. And then he was transferred to Takum, Taraba State, when President Obasanjo became the president in Nigeria. And then we were transferred to the barracks in Warri. But that was when my dad started moving and I went to school. But now he's retired. So the first generation, I might be wrong because there are people older than me that could give a better history about the barracks, is those people that are called the 63 NA. So the 63 NA are people that fought the Civil War, for example, maybe got into the Nigerian Army from the 1950s down um, to the 1960s. And then we have another generation of soldiers that joined the Nigerian Army, which is the 79 NA. And that is the generation that my father was part of, right? Uh, so the 79 NA soldiers are people that joined the Nigerian Army um, from 2000. I mean, did I say 2000? No, that is wrong. From 1979 or 1969 after the Civil War down to the 1980s. And then we have the 90 NA, the 2000 NA, and the 10 NA. So my father belonged to the category of the 79 NA. Most of them were the ones that fought in the war in Liberia and in the civil war in Sierra Leone, called the ECOMOG. So I was born within that time frame from, and my peer groups in the barrack I will describe would be people that were born in 1990, yeah, to 1993. These are most of my friends. I don't want to mention their name because I'm not sure they would want um, to be mentioned. But generally, we see ourselves as the military homeboys, um, because of the experience that we had, because we are privileged to see those people that were part of 63 NA and those people that were part of the 79 and then the 90 NA. Yeah, so that is just a bit of a background of the generation that I grew up with. Um, but yeah, my experience growing up in the barracks, um, it's a place that I would say that it has little opportunities for people to grow, few people to advise you on what to do, what choices to make, and all that. Apart from um, the barracks in Abuja that I would say that had good educational facilities and all that. When we moved to Takum, Taraba State, it was a different ball game because the educational facilities were completely bad, most especially the primary school, including the secondary school um, that I attended. In some barracks, probably some people went to command and the facilities were good, the teachers were good, well trained, and all that. But um, I went to a primary and partly my secondary school in Takum. And even though my teachers were really good and they did their best, but the facilities they need, the infrastructure they need to teach us um, wasn't there. Mostly the buildings were dilapidated, um, buildings, classes were overcrowded sometimes. I remember in my primary school, we used to sit on the floor, literally sit on the floor to learn. But it was fun because I had good friends, good classmates that we really enjoyed our time in school. Also in secondary school, I had my military homeboys. There are lots of them. I don't want to mention names so that I don't leave someone's name out and the person starts beefing me, you know. But it was a good experience. For me, I believe stories shape the way you think about yourself and the way you think about your life, where you are coming from and where you are going, in general. So when we were given birth to in the barracks, there's a particular story, that we heard about how people have been living in the barracks, and um, there's this phrase that we use, or this expression that yaron soldier soldier ne. If you understand Hausa, you know what I'm saying. That if your dad is in the army, you have to behave or act as if you are you are also part of the force, or represent that attitude, that or that vibe, that you are a barrack boy. Because specifically if you are born in the Nigerian Army Barracks, there's this assumption that you are better than other people, that uh, it's a privilege for you to be in the four walls of these barracks and get to experience life with other people from different culture, different backgrounds, and all that. So it's a way of you know, keeping up with that story that I am a barrack boy and I am not afraid of anyone. I am not afraid of challenges and all that. I'm not afraid to fight. I'm not afraid to defend myself. You cannot oppress me. You cannot do anything to me, irrespective of where you are coming from or whether or not you are bigger than me. It is better for people to hear that I actually defended myself, right? Than for people to hear that I was afraid, and wasn't able to stand up to you. and all that. So I believe that is why, because we've been able to keep up with um, that story, that perspective that we give people about growing up in the barracks, that is why people hear all of these stories. And whenever we go out of the barracks, we want to show people that we are from the barracks. We want to show other kids, most especially when we go to football competitions, for example, of basketball competitions or volleyball competitions. These are most of the predominant sports in the barracks. I remember when we were in Warri, we had this football team that usually plays behind the mosques in Ephron Barracks, and we decided to name it Confusion United. Just from the name already, that these guys are crazy. They are out for war. They are not ready to lose to anyone. We don't have a coach. We don't know who is playing a particular um, position in the game. But we know who is a defender, who is an attacker, who is a midfielder, and all that. And mostly we grew up playing soccer or football barefooted. I think it was later on that we started buying um, football boot. But because we're able to keep up with that story that I am a barrack boy, and you cannot put me in the back seat, you cannot oppress me, you cannot intimidate me. That is why whenever we go out, people see us that, hey man, these guys are coming from the barracks. You need to be afraid of them. You need to be careful, uh, and all that. But deep within, we know our challenges, we know our struggles, and we know our shortcomings. um but for me, you asked what happened, that my story is different. I would say my parent played a key role in my life. I'll say that my parent played a key role in my life, because for my experience, and also most of the kids that grow up in the barracks, you will agree that our parents are mostly not at home. Our dads, if it's your mom that is in the army, you will know that she's mostly not um, at home. So my mom had to play the role of a father and a mother at the same time. You need to be a tough woman to be able to do that. You need to be strong, and all that. And it comes with a lot of effort, controlling some of the devices, most especially in your home. Like for me, I had my curfew, um, that my mom would be like, hey, you need to be home at this time, and at this particular time you need to be home. In our house, it's a rule that you must go to school. It's not a choice. Um, for you, when you come back from school, oh my God, one of the questions that I never liked is, what did you learn from school today? So my mom or my dad will always ask us, so tell us, what did you learn from school today? And um, they check your books, they check your clothes, they check everything you have. You cannot bring anything new or anything expensive without them asking, where did you get um, this stuff from? Because I remember, with my friends, shout out to all the military homeboys. If you are part of the military homeboys, you know yourself. Um, we will go to people's farms and steal their groundnuts. you know. So there's this friend of ours. He will understand if I'm sharing this story. We used to call him Negi because people will tie these charms, these charms with bottles and all of that in their maize farm. And he will be the one to go and uproot the charm from the farm. And then we'll go in and take some of their maize, and all that. So my parents did a lot because they are aware that barrack boys are stubborn. They are rude. Sometimes they get into trouble with the police and all that. So my mom did a lot of work, and also my dad was also in support of that because we knew that they were in the same page. It was difficult for you to get away with anything. And my mom, oh God, my mom is also a strict disciplinarian. You know, this kind of mom that uses anything in the kitchen to beat you, and this kind of mom that will wait until 2 a.m. in the night and they'll wake you up with belts and all that. So it's difficult to go to parties. Sometimes we sneak out, you know, with my elder brother, um, to go to party, get drunk, and your friends will find a way to sneak you back home, uh, and all that. But I believe my mom's prayers, my father's prayers really worked in transforming us. And those moments of morning devotion that I never liked, you know, waking us up, I remember 4:30 a.m. every morning, and we'll have to trek to church um, in Takum to do morning devotion. Um, uh, I, that was part of our routine every day. I think in hindsight, I am now seeing how that was an influence in my life, reading the Bible every day. And sometimes my parents will ask us to be the ones to lead devotion that day. So it means you need to know how to read the Bible. You need to cram the whole devotional, you know, uh, and know the memory verse, because it could come up during lunch. Hey, what did we talk about in devotion today? And if you don't know the answer, oh boy, my mom will just rush you with beating and all that. But um, for the Ajabota children that are hearing this, and some of the Tush guys in the US listening to this, I wasn't abused by my parents. It's just a way of training your children, you know, in an environment that is tough. Um, and you had to do all you could to see that your children grow up in the way that you have envisioned um, for them. So, yeah, um, like I said earlier, sometimes these stories are true, you know, and we as barrack boys and girls do our best to keep up with that attitude that you want to show everyone that I am from the barracks, you know. But sometimes we have our own challenges as well, and we wish maybe things would be different, you know. But thanks to our parents, and thanks to everyone that will see us going to school and tell us how to dress properly. Some of these soldiers that will stop us and talk to us, you know, that there is a future out there, you know, beyond the four walls of these barracks, that we don't need to spend our lives in alcohol, um, substance abuse, and all of the addictions, you know, that are prevalent in the barracks. That there is an option for us out there. I think one of the persons that I will remember is James Gotip. He's now late. I always appreciate him for all of the things that he said to me. Um, Solomon Wudaba, he's still in the army right now. I really appreciate those moments. And Reverend Samson Adeyi, you know, and several other people that poured um, into us and will teach us how to live way beyond the barracks, introduce us to books. Pastor Christopher Saleh, was a huge influence to me, that really encouraged me to read books. You know, Pastor Christopher Saleh was part of the 63 NA, but he invested in life at some point into reading books, and he shared with us and all that. Bros Gentle as well. He's now a pastor in Jos, and his younger brother, Captain Job. You know, several other people that really poured into our lives. Yeah, I think that is the reason why maybe, you know, my path turned out different from some of the guys in the barracks. So I think I need to make these clarifications that sometimes when we talk about barrack boys, barrack girls, there's a difference. You know, there are those that are senior officers. You know, they lived in officers' quarters. These are like their jabotas, the tush children and all that. But there are those that live in the other rank. Sometimes we usually beef that those people in officers' quarters are not part of the barracks. You know, I know they will beef me for this, but you have to prove me wrong that you had that experience. You know, but um, I think statistically it has been proven that most of the families that live without a father at home, you know, will always have some of those troubles, you know, raising kids. It's difficult for a mom to be able to do the job um, alone. So I think, yeah, that is a factor. And truthfully, my story also is is one that is an outlier, you know. Um, and from my observation as well, I would say that in most families, you know, most especially in our barracks, I grew up in 3 battalion, you know, um, most of the people, most of the families only have one person that makes it. If at all there is anybody in the family, you know, that becomes successful, you know, whatever the definition of success um, is. And usually there is one person that perhaps um, goes to the university, you know. Um, I think growing up in 3 battalion, throughout my years, decades of living in that barracks, I think I was in my 20s when I saw one girl got her degree from the barracks. One girl in my decades. I might be wrong, and I'm not talking about those people that grew up in officers' quarters. They have the money and the resources to do that, you know. But for most families in the barracks, you hardly see a child that will go beyond secondary school. Most of them end up joining the army, you know, like their dad. And the pay is not good. Um, to be truthful, the pay is not good. The hospitals, most of the times, um, it's not good. You know, the accommodation is terrible. We were giving birth to 4 of us in our home, and we had to stay in 2 rooms. You know, um, so you have to live with. I know several times when my dad will have to go back to the office to sleep because there is no space at home. They never shared this with us as parents, you know. I know they did a good job to cover some of those experiences so that we don't see them struggle, you know. But I saw them. I saw how my parents had to sell kunu, sell awara, you know, all of these little businesses to take care of us. There are moments when we had no food, literally. When my mom will just light the fire, we usually cook outside with firewood, you know, and my mom will just put water in the pot and it's boiling, just so that neighbors, you know, and the kids, we the children will believe that, oh, food is coming until it is late and we will go to bed, you know, and probably the next morning we will have something to eat before going to school. So it's difficult, you know. Sometimes in our schools, most especially in our secondary schools, we don't have English teachers, you know, we don't have math teachers. I remember if we don't have any copper, people coming from for NYSC, if we don't have them coming to our schools, we will not have an English teacher or a maths teacher. And so many of my friends could attest to all this. It's as if you are a suspect, you are designed to fail. I know several senior officers, that have met us in at the playing basketball or playing football, and they will rain insults at us. Specifically, I remember an incident, was it in 2011, that an officer told us that we will end up as useless as our parents. You know, and this is just one of several situations that have happened. If something is missing in the barracks, barrack boys are the suspect. They start harassing you and insulting you, and telling you all manner of stuff. And there's also post-traumatic stress disorder that soldiers go through. Most of them have experienced war, and there's no proper facility to counsel them on how to um, reunite with their families, and how to live life with their children. And so many of them are angry at the way their bosses talked to them. And they come back, and the kids are the ones that they will pour all of this anger on. And I sit with my friends sometimes when we're growing up, and we talk about how our fathers are just getting angry for nothing. Maybe you did not take your bath since morning, and they start telling you how useless you are, as something that is as simple as that. Or you went to play uh, football, or soccer, and you enjoy yourself. Your parents will have to take you to the hospital and spend money, and my mom will just be mad because that is the little resources we have to feed for that day or for that week, and we are taking you to the hospital. I saw so many of my friends that their parents struggled with alcohol addiction. Some of them had to grow up in unstable families. Their father will just abandon them, get married to another wife, and they had to suffer through that. I believe the church, the military chapel, did a great work, but I'm sorry if some of the pastors are hearing this. Most of them are not equipped to handle some of the issues that people are facing in the barracks, and it's just the truth. And with the inflow of prosperity gospel, these days, and that is because of the fear that people are going through, wives and families are going through in the barracks. So you see some of these pastors taking advantage of these families, exploiting them sometimes financially, because they want to make money from the church. And you hardly see a clear impact that the church or the religious institution is having in shaping the lives of families and young people um, in the barracks. So yeah, it is tough, or it was tough. And that is the reason why I'm doing this, because there are several young people till date growing up in the same system, in the same facility, sometimes without electricity. Sometimes you have to walk 5 miles to fetch water to take your bath. Sometimes we drink water from the streams, but maybe things are changing. I've been out of the barracks for a couple of years. Maybe things are changing, I don't know. But it's difficult for you to see one person that will inspire you that beyond the four walls of these barracks, that there is something great out there that you can achieve. But like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of people that inspired me. Um, and I turned out different. So I'm really grateful to them. I will absolutely say that it is the grace of God that has kept me thus far. Looking at how I grew up, the chances of making it, from that kind of environment. Um, and now I am here studying in the US. Um, for me, I would say that first, the principles that my parent kept, that it is not an option, that all of us in our house must go beyond secondary school. At least we must have a first degree. For me, I think that inspired me to push, beyond the norm. And I'll also say that I I took up the challenge to start reading books. A little bit early. I would say in my teen age, I took up the challenge to start reading at least one book every month. I Seminary was not the part of the plan for me. I would say that banking for me was something that I was interested in, or law, for example. But seminary was not part of the plan. I was just reading, trying to develop myself, and trying to just do something great out of my life, But um, 2014 seminary came, and I had to go. But before that, there are several incentives, several persuasions, that came, that I had to join the army. Um, I believe I, I'm just trying to be careful, because some of my friends are in the army. I don't want to categorize them as people that are not successful, in their own right. Um, they are successful because we had lots and lots of friends that never got to make anything out of their life. So I don't want to like use myself as the standard, that this is what success is and this is what success is not, or because you are this then you are not successful. No. I really admire most of all of my friends, and I'm happy that a whole bunch of them are doing great things, in their own right right now. But I could remember when some soldiers uh, will insult some of us that decide that we want to go to school, that we don't know what we're doing. That, do you know how many people are graduates? How many millions of people are graduating in Nigeria every year? You know, and they don't have jobs. And even when I decided to go to the seminary, some people were like, "Oh, it's because you are not intelligent enough to go to school. So becoming a pastor is the easy route for you. You just want to go and be reading the Bible every day and start a church, But for me, and deeply within me, I knew that this is where God is leading me to. I always say that it is a call, um, for me. And one of the dramatic things that happened, I think in early 2014, when I wanted to apply to Theological Seminary, JET, uh, is that when I made the decision, then Bros Gentle, Pastor Jeremiah Pam, was at JET, and I wanted to contact him that, hey, this is what I want to do, and myself and Ruth, his younger sister, are close friends. We were giving birth to, in the same, we were pair groups, that grew up at the same time. So I reached out to her that, please give me your elder brother's number. I want to reach out to him so that I will go to the school that he is in. And I still remember her reaction. She was like, Sheila, do you know the school that he's attending? I said, yes, I know that he's in the seminary. She was like, are you sure that is what can you do it, and all that? Because that is because she knew who I was, and was like, I don't think the seminary will accept people like you. But I mean, she was my friend, and we understood what we were talking about. Um, but I went there, and at every stage of the journey, I would say that there are always people that God will position, um, to like support me in making decisions, in choosing a path for myself, and all that. For example, people like Pastor Christopher Saleh, for example, in 2014, he was there to guide me, always giving me books to read. Bros Gentle was there to also encourage me and all that. And when I got to the seminary, some of the first guys I met also um, were guys that I respect, that I was excited that we are classmates, and they inspired me to do more. And I met some professors there that were just excellent in mentoring us, uh, and teaching us. I remember one of our professors will always tell us that they are not training us to become pastors in Equa, but to become global thinkers, global leaders, and all that. And that stayed with me, that um, I can become anything. I can put my mind at it, and become great. And that was where I think my thoughts started forming, that hey, I can become a biblical scholar, specifically in church history. Shout out to Sulmani Megadi. He inspired me um, a lot, and that was where the journey for church history started. But I think in my 300 level, I told myself that if it is not Oxford, Cambridge, or some of the Ivy League schools in the US, um, I don't think I will do scholarship anywhere. That was a decision I made for myself. Uh, and that was how the journey began until I got admitted to do my master's in Princeton Theological Seminary a couple of years ago. And now I'm a doctoral student in the history and in the history department. So for me, some of those little things that people say to you, inspiring you that, hey, you have what it takes. You have these skills to do this, to talk about this, or to talk about a particular subject, and they inspire you that to imagine a world out there that you can be great. For me, it goes a long way to transforming our lives, right? And for me, if I would say anything to some of the young guys coming up, I'll be like, imagine a world that is full of possibilities, because one of the challenges that I see prevailing in the barracks is Yahoo, um, fraud, because to them, everybody just wants to make money, right? And unfortunately, these are some of the guys that they are celebrating because they get to defraud people and flaunt the money, and everyone is talking about the fact that this is the definition of success, that what you can buy or what you cannot buy, determines whether or not you are successful and all that. But there is a world of possibilities out there. There is a world where people are waiting to hear your story as a barrack boy or a barrack girl, and for you to inspire people wherever you are working or wherever you are schooling, And just like we don't allow ourselves to be intimidated by other people because we are barrack boys and barrack girls, I believe that we can take the same mentality into the academia, into the world of business, into the world of fashion, of creativity and all that, and do our thing, and show the world that yes, we may not have the best of everything growing up, but we can create something out of that experience that will change our nation, that will change the world, that will change the lives of people in different places, and all that. I have seen people that have done it, and my life as well is a testimony. It should be an ongoing conversation, on how we can be better. It should be part of the conversations, with our friends, with our parents. Some of our parents may not be open to such conversations, but I mean, I think your circle of friends, it should be part of the conversation of how can we make ourselves better. Reach out to some of the barrack boys, that have been successful. Some of them are currently in the army, and talk to them, man. If you will do it, how would you do it differently? What are some of the things that you think you missed growing up that I should watch out for, and all that? I think you should reach out for people to mentor you, for people to counsel you, for people to listen to your pain, and all that, and to listen to your joys and success stories as well, because it is not all bad. Um, I think these are some of the avenues that we could explore, um, to make ourselves better. I would say read, read, read. Um, there are lots of wisdoms and opportunities in books, in newspapers. We are caught up in a generation that is obsessed about social media. I know, but one of the decisions I made early on is that instead of using my money to buy data, I will use it to buy a book. Instead of using my money to buy drugs or alcohol, I will use it to buy a book. At some point, I even went to the point of saying that instead of using my money to cut my hair, I will use that money to buy a book, right? Because I know that there is a lot of wisdom um, that are in the cover of books that will transform your life. Uh, and most of the people that are looking for employees these days, um, are looking for employees that will give them ideas, right? Not just people that will sit and take salaries, but people that have ideas to sell out there. So what is the idea that you can come up with? One of the questions that one of our senior barrack boys asked me was, if I give you 1 million naira right now, what will you do with it? What business idea do you have? And we started brainstorming and all that. And that was a rich conversation that I remember having, um, with some of the folks, um, in the barracks. So for me, I would say, talk about your ideas, talk about how to make your lives better. Um, I know that some of you are not happy with the church, with some of the chaplains, and all that. Talk about this. Find these avenues, to talk about it. One of the good programs that I think that the church did for us was Youth Fellowship and Barrack Youth Empowerment Summit, DS. These were excellent programs. I don't know how viable they are, today, but I believe these are avenues that we could explore, you know, um, to develop ourselves, share our stories, and do great things. All right, it's been your military homeboy, Israel Gwatana. Some of you will know me as The Game. Some of you will know me as Sheila. But I'm excited to share my story with the eclectic podcast. Um, Please keep on following them for more stories like this, for more inspirational ideas on life in general. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and invite several other people to watch.